they should be, they won't, they shouldn't?
You know, Belgium passed a law a couple of years ago, whereas students in traineeships and internships can't be paid by companies. So we have this problem with Belgium because we have some students in Belgium and they say, no, we can't pay students anymore now because our government forbids us to pay students.
Yeah. I think there is a problem with what they call the commercial prices or commercial rates.
Okay.
I know I'm talking about the area of interpreting, okay? I think it's either you are a volunteer or you're, in this case, an intern, or you're not. But for example, if you say instead of working for, I don't know, whatever, 500 euros per day, I'm going to work for 200 euros. In this case, you are damaging the market. This is really bad.
That's a permanent work, of course, it's permanent work. That's very bad.
But in this case, I mean, I don't know, because my question is, this organization, for example, the UN, are they giving extra, I mean, are they giving funding to the university to invest in your programs? Are they kind of complementing?
We try. Now, yeah, there's a very thin line to open the market, and that's why we're very careful there. It's a big dilemma in time. And so we always ask our other organizations if they should pay our students because they're not professional at the professional grade, because they're not professionals, but a bit less. We don't want them to work for free. And again, because it's true that we shouldn't be asking them to pay much less than a professional because then they're used to that. But because we're not providing a professional service and we can't give them translations, as many translations as they want, they need to realize that for some of their needs, they need to ask professional students and to pay professional translators for that. But as you're saying, yeah, there's a very thin line between what is dumping the market and what is real.
And it is a traineeship, like in any other profession. I mean, a student lawyer will also be paid less. So there, it's not interfering with the market in that sense. It would be interfering with the market. We also propose services all the time outside the university when students finished. They are studying still. It's a traineeship.
In a way, we see ourselves as mediators in society. I mean, of course, it's part of their training, and we want, as much as possible, the organization to help and to train our students. But it's always difficult with translation because usually clients don't know much about what translation is about, so they don't learn much from the clients. So they have to learn that from ourselves. But yeah, it's a tricky question.
Would you, I mean, if I was in an NGO, I would ask you, well, how much would you suggest that we should pay them? And would you suggest a particular rate?
Well, we're trying with organizations is for organizations to actually buy translation tools. And we do that with UNHCR. So students work with Deja Vu, for instance, and when they finish their work, the NGO buys the Deja Vu, the CAT tool, half price. We have reached this agreement with Atrial that produces Deja Vu, and with the NGO, with UNHCR. So students work with that tool during their traineeships. At the end of the traineeships, UNHCR buy Deja Vu half price and they give it to the students. So sometimes it's monetary payments and some other times it's in kind. But it depends on the on the country. We have different rates, and even in cities. We don't have a fixed rate for that. We try to negotiate as much as we can.
And are there any open source tools used? Because I would think...
We're going to talk about
okay.
that.
We get, now, Atrial gives the students licenses during their traineeships. We don't have to pay for Deja Vu, or we don't have to pay, for instance, for a link-of-it localizer. They give us licenses, or WordFast, for instance. We work with WordFast or with Visualizer. So we can use them for the traineeships. Now, if possible, we want the students to actually have that tool for their professional life, so they can keep that tool.
Mm.
And that's payment. But we try to work with, not with open source tools sometimes, because we have some problems with those tools, and that's something to be discussed as well, and we'll talk about that later. But with tools that they're going to be good for the students' professional life. We do work with SDL Travelers, and we bought a lot of Travelers licenses at a discounted price as well. But the others like Deja Vu, WordFast, Liquid Localizer, Sigilizer, we get free licenses.
I want to say something. I think there's another way of paying the students. I did one friendship with you from, it was a dictionary, Cambridge Spanish, and now my name is there. So even I prefer that being paying 200 euros. So for me that's more valuable.
I'm going to come back to what you were saying before. The problem for the NGOs is always the budget and how to... I could never buy a software and give it to an individual and write that up on my budget. It would just be absolutely impossible. But what I do, yes, we put the names of the translators in the projects to recognise the translators. Otherwise it's a fixed budget for traineeships. Flat budget we give trainees. It's not because we don't want to recognise the work or don't want to pay, but you have to actually concretely, how do you pay? And otherwise, I feel very uncomfortable about paying, say, a translation per word 50% less than the market price. I wouldn't do that. I think that's not very honest to do. Then I am buying second-rate translation. I'm not comfortable with that.
Unless you understand that you're training, you're helping translators being trained.
That doesn't work.
Well, the key, I think, is not doing all the work you need. Some kinds of work that's going to help both. Whereas you understand that the main and most important thing is given to professional translators. It's difficult. I mean, we don't know. I know it's a difficult thing to do. Yeah.
You don't want to position students to think too that there's kind of two lives that they can have, where they can have either the sadly underpaid life of the NGO or
That's right. Yeah.
the better life of working for an agency.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, but even with the private companies, they don't get paid a professional rate.
Yes.
Not as trainees.
Well, that's because the agencies are also aware of the value of free or underpaid.
Not as trainees. And I think that's perfectly ethical as well from a company's point of view. I mean, the people who run translation companies will tell you it takes 6 months before somebody starts to earn even their entry wage, which might be half of what they'll earn next year. You know, you're losing money for, you know, so with a translation company, you know, and then, yeah. The only thing that does interest me is what you said earlier on, is like, I'd like to actually ask the NGO people, are there other trainees or professionals whose labour isn't paid for at all? You know, other kind of volunteers, or not? Yeah, because I think that's what translators need to hear, because if this...
We're a medical organisation, we have a piece of
who are giving for free, because if the idea abounds that it's how come there's money for everyone else except for the interpreter and translator, that's really dangerous, and it's not actually the case. Yeah.
Yeah, has some questions or comments here?
Just from your experience after, I mean, what's your name? Sarah. Are there any improvements? Would you recommend any improvements, any things, any suggestions after your training?
Improvements in what to the program, you mean?
I mean, on how to work with, I mean, I suppose, interpreters and translators.
To be honest, I was really happy. I think that everything worked well, and even if I didn't get paid for anything, I think that I have profit from them more than they from me, because I have gained experience, I have worked together with professionals, and I have learned from them and they have learned from me also, because nowadays in those international organizations the professional translators are elder than us, and they don't know all the tools that now we are teaching in university, and I'm really sure that I'm not saying anything wrong, because they even if you